thrilled and connected to that global conversation again. It was magnificent.
So I want to get to the fan noise being pumped in a second, because that absolutely fascinates me, and it is something that I think, even though people might think tongue firmly planted in cheek, I think it is something that the NFL is going to be taking a close look at, as other North American sports here. What about the results? I know you're an Evertonian, correct? That's a correct statement.
I am. You're a remarkable man. So Everton, I come from Liverpool, which is like football mad, like Indiana, high school basketball, Texas.
Right.
Football. Everton are like the Mets of Liverpool.
Yes.
There is another team, the Yankees, Liverpool, leading Liverpool. I am cursed to walk the earth as Cleveland Browns fans will probably relate to my suffering. But yes, go on.
No, but the result that Everton placed against Liverpool, which had an opportunity, had they gotten past Everton with a proper result or an expected result, an opportunity to wrap things up for the first time in 30 years with another win this week, and yet your side stood in the way, correct, Roger?
Yeah, so Everton it's a bit like, I guess, Auburn. War Eagle to Liverpool's Alabama. Liverpool are a mighty team that used to, when I was growing up, win titles by right. I mean, they weren't my whole childhood was watching them bring trophy after trophy back to the city. Everton, we've had our moments, but not so much. And what's remarkable is Liverpool have not won a title in 30 long years, 30 fantastic years, some would say. And then FSG, Fenway Sports Group, the Boston Red Sox owners, brought Liverpool in October 2010. And it took them a little time. It wasn't effortless, but they got their heads, John Henry and his team, around the unique competitive advantages, some of which they'd mastered with the Red Sox in terms of identifying and recruiting and scouting differently to other teams. And they have, year on year, over the past 5 or 6 years, a very remarkable leader, a manager, German, called Jurgen Klopp, who's like a Teutonic Care Bear. He's like Jim Harbaugh in his enthusiasm, but he actually keeps winning. And he has led Liverpool to just 5 points now from the title, which is a remarkable achievement. The Red Sox 2004 achievement was, breaking the curse, a remarkable sporting thing. This Liverpool achievement, and it could happen as soon as Wednesday when Liverpool play Crystal Palace, if the results go the right way. If FSG, this American ownership group, can drag Liverpool back to the promised land, it will be as great an achievement as the Red Sox, but lived out with the whole world watching. And so huge, huge respect. It's an incredible American achievement in the global game.
The dulcet tones of Roger Bennett here on the Rich Eisen Show, co-host of Men in Blazers, along with our buddy Michael Davies right here on the program. So what else do we need to know about this return? Because
Christian
it is
Pulisic.
Correct. He scored for Chelsea, and that's good news for all of us, right? Writ large,
it's
Roger.
Good news for America. It's a remarkable moment. It's nice to feel good about something, even if it's just for a minute. Yeah. Christian Pulisic, 21-year-old from Hershey, Pennsylvania, who moved to Chelsea Football Club in the Premier League, and this is his first season. He started poorly, struggled, and then out of nowhere, around October, just started scoring. When you watch him play, he plays a little bit like a point guard in the NBA, just finding slithers of space, changing pace, incredible burst of speed, and is able to mine crevices of space and really hurt opponents. He was then injured, has not played since January the 1st with an abductor strain. And what's remarkable is he didn't start, came into a game when his team were 1-0 down the weekend in the 55th minute, and within 4 minutes he made a run to the far post, jabbed the ball home, his 7th of the season. And I'm so happy for him, and just the relief, the joy that he experienced, struggled, then dazzled, then fallen off, and now he's back contributing again. From an American football perspective, he's our Lord and Savior. From a world football perspective, he's just another young, good player fighting for minutes. But it was a lovely moment. And also at the weekend, a 17-year-old from Westchester, New York, Gio Reyna, a beautiful assist in the Bundesliga. So it's great from an American perspective for a moment, whatever religion you are, whatever ethnicity, whatever political view you have. The joy of sports, Rich, you can put it all aside for a moment, just connect, feel wonderful together, and that's what Christian Pulisic allowed us to do at the weekend.
Well, he's also a salesman as well. He's trying to get me on board for Chelsea. I have right here in front of me. He sent me a note after I talked about an MLS playoff game at length on this program. Roger, he sent me an autographed Chelsea jersey right here for me to hold up in a moment, I guess, just like this, to help promote the fact that he's overseas and he's crushing it. And I've got it right here.
It's no Bilf mug. It's no Bilf mug, but it is something, you know.
Well, it looks great paired with the Bilf Life mug. You should see it right now, Roger. It is impressive. It's very nice.
So it's a joy. There was always a worry that this may be a Frederick Weiss kind of first year for Christian. With goals like that, he's shaken that. He's not quite the superstar that America demands, but he's doing amazing, and I'm incredibly proud.
Great reference to the dreadful New York Knick, nicknamed the French pastry by the tabloid media. Great reference, Roger. Gosh, that was fantastic. Let's get into the crowd noise aspect of it, because if I'm not mistaken, fans of the sport in the UK have an ability to watch the matches as they're being played with just nothing, just the au naturel, and then another where crowd noise is being pumped in and controlled by who? Who is the individual who has this job, Roger? Can you find him and interview him on Men in Blazers? Can you find this person?
They're using crowd noises developed by our friends at EA Sports FIFA, a remarkable game where they go every year to such incredible detective lengths to almost track down, like musicologists, every single chant from every single stadium in every single game. So it's a really through the looking glass moment where a game which is based on a sport actually is injecting itself to bring a reality to the sport itself, and it's needed. You know, the Bundesliga came back first. It was the German Bundesliga, the first league back, and the first game was a massive one, Dortmund against Schalke. Let's just say two teams who were German, and everybody was watching. The whole world tuned in. And it was like watching a really good pickup game in the park. You could hear every single shout from every single player, the coaches screaming. When the passes were hit, it had that kind of rubbery ping that you hear when you walk past a really good game of pickup in the park. When they scored, there was like a weird silence, just the ball hitting. You'd hear the ripple in the back of the net. And instead of that crowd noise, that theatre, that epic moment of human poetry that is just a delirious sporting moment, you heard nothing. And back then, the players were social distancing, so they'd freeze, they'd run toward each other to hug each other and celebrate, and then freeze 6 feet away from each other. We have John Oliver on our show, and he said, watching that game, it was like being in the worst discotheque in Antwerp, watching their goal celebrations, just 6 men dancing on their own. And so they realized they needed fake crowd noise for the broadcast just to roil the blood, to surge and manipulate the emotions. Sport, in the end of the day, Rich, as you know better than I do, it's just incredible human theatre. And so the fake crowd noise is a work in progress. There's one bloke who's mixing it into the production. It's nearly there, but it's enough off. If you watch enough sports, you know everything. You can shut your eyes and follow along with the game just by the crowd noise. It's slightly off. It's slightly uncalibrated. I think they should just use the Seinfeld laugh track instead, or have other special effects. Why stop with just fake sound? They could have Godzilla rise above the stadium, or a dragon sweeping over it, and just to signal half-time, swooping over and burning the place down. I'm all for the CGI. When you're a little bit in, Rich, you should be all in.
I agree. And well, very well done, Mike. Very well done. See, you should be the one.
I've actually done this stuff live.
What do you mean?
We've added sound.
What do you mean?
Fox Sports has added sound forever. We had a sweetener behind us.
What?
For sports.
Yes,
Rich.
For what? What
for every sport we ever did.
For highlights? Or
we used to do it for sweetening highlights constantly.
Oh, I thought you meant live sporting events.
No, but we did actually do it for one event that was just recent that we were talking about.
See, here's what I think we should do, Raj, is I think, though, we should take this a next level. We should, let's do that. I think they should pump it into the actual stadium. They should act that home field advantage, certainly in the NFL as it's coming. Like, they should be able to figure out what the average noise would be for a certain moment in the game and be allowed to pump it up. And certainly be allowed to, in the Premier League, whatever chanting, whatever is normally happening in the stadium, pump it in.
Oh, the referee's a wanker, Rich. You want that? You want that? You want that? You want that pumped in?
Well, yes, that too, Roger. That too. Yes.
It's a I will say it's a controversial step. Football is an intensely local game in England, and the fan base are so loyal, just generations of memories. And to watch football without those fans there, but with the fan noise, it raises questions for many of the fans. Like, why did we bother in the first place? Like, there are genuine fears that we're all replaceable. And they have these English fans. They zoom them in. They have 20 lucky fans are zoomed into the scoreboard, and you're watching these kind of many of them aging, tattooed, one-time hooligans sitting sadly in their living room, just completely defanged as they watch their beautiful club from afar. You can tell they're itching for a fight, most of them. And I'm just watching these zoomed-in fans, like massive on the scoreboard, and I'm like, it's just the greatest risk in sports I've ever seen, Rich, because I know their mentality. And where you have the first ever zoomed-in Premier League fans,
yes,
the first ever zoomed-in streakers are going to be coming incredibly. The two things, in my mind, go hand in hand. So it's worth watching, if only for that, America.
Well, that needs to be vetted. I'll have to agree. We should definitely have to vet that. Roger, I just love chatting with you, man. I miss it. But I'm thrilled that the Premier League is back on NBCSN, NBC Sports, and more. And Men in Blazers, you've got something to talk about, which so many people need, and you're so great at talking about it.
Rich, it is. It's that global conversation, that connectivity, that no matter what you're feeling in that moment, high or low, we can all be connected to the same thing for 90 minutes. That most important, least important thing. That's what's wonderful. And so are you. It's a joy to be with you.
Thank you.
You're the greatest mensch in the sports business, and best to you and your family.
Same to you, Roger. Thank you. Same to you. At Rog Bennett with 2 N's, 2 T's on Twitter.
Thanks, guys.
You got great Roger Bennett. There he is. I'm telling you, we need to. We'll take a break. We'll come back. The SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey is going to join us, and but I want to put a pin in this.
We did the home run chase live like that.
I know you may have done a home run chase live, but now you got to do it for live sports. You may have a future this fall to try and figure something out.
Well, we were already working on it.
It's happening.
And you're already hearing, I guess Mark Cuban say what we were talking about, having fans at home cheer, whether through an app or something, and it's pumped in.
It should be in the stadium. I'm with you. And that's easy to do, Rich.
The one thing that should definitely be in the stadium is Week 2, New England at Seattle.
Exactly.
That should be the first game they try.
Stadium should not have to be in Seattle with no crowd.
First game.
Stop.
Yep.
Don't even do it Week 1. Although Saints fans versus Tom Brady, right? Yeah. That's Week 1. The SEC Commissioner, Greg Sankey, will join us next on The Rich Eisen Show.
The 12s. We actually did something really cool, Rich. We didn't give WGN, when Sosa was up to bat, we had to, because we were getting their announcers. And at Fox, we couldn't show WGN. We could show St. Louis because they were part of Fox Sports Net.
Okay.
So what we had to do, David Hill wanted us to show every time Sosa or them were up. So we would have to take
Big Fox.
On Big Fox.
This is pre-Baby Fox.
Yes.
Oh.
So what
it was just regional Fox and Big Fox. Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's literally, so we would bring it up, and we would have Sosa come in. It would be in a double box. We would run the crowds under it. Richie Becker, who's a great soundman, one of the best sweetener guys you ever met, audio sweetening.
Sure.
Does like all that effect stuff. Would sit behind us. We'd run the crowds. I had a big crowd. I had a low crowd. He had all the hits, all the catches. We'd fake it. We had David Hill and the booth executive controller and convinced we were getting feeds from WGN of the what we call the natural sounds from the stadium. We all got Emmys because of this. He basically got us all our first Emmys because of us doing this, because it was like amazing.
You need to bring in this Emmy tomorrow. What is the date on?
That Emmy is the one that's
been broke. That was the one you actually.
That was the broken one.
Yeah. Well, it's only fair
That's
because
why it's
you got an Emmy
not-
for faking stuff.
That was the
so of course
first
your
one of
wife,
all.
your ex-wife,
No,
was
she
actually
grabbed the
speaking
wrong
for the
one.
rest of the entire
She
industry.
grabbed the wrong one. Had she taken one of the other ones, I'd doubles up. Yeah, that's what made it. That's what makes this even more upsetting. Yeah, that was like one of the greatest events we ever did.
We never asked him what the Emmy that his ex-wife threw at him in anger and broke.
It was for the final game.
We never asked. Now we know it was for
the big
faking
game.
crowd noise under the highlights of the long summer. We should do a 30 for 30 next. What's more fake? Those home run records or Del Tufo's sweetening of the sound and getting an Emmy for it?
Wow.
It was. We did it all the time on highlights.
Even so, did we?
That's
going to
keep you out of the Audio Hall of Fame.
Did we
Mike.
just? That's a great line.
Let me tell you something right now.
There's even an
Mike's a-
asterisk on the
Yeah,
Emmy.
Emmy's
It's all
got an
just found
asterisk.
out.
No, we were faking it because we were told by the executives. It's not like we were just doing it on
Oh,
our own.
they were like Bud
David
Selig.
Hill. Yeah, it's David. They
But
were
we
off.
had to.
They were like the owners. They
Everybody
knew. They knew
Everyone
what was
knew.
going on.
The highlights were juiced. The Emmy was juiced.
Hey,
Everyone was juicing. My gosh.
AGH, not HDH.
Audio. I don't even know what the
what it
GH
stands
is.
for.
Just rubbing the cream in the clear on the soundboard.
We actually were taking ephedrine back then, so
Oh,
maybe.
my
that's
gosh.
why.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, come on.
All right, roll your break. Got to clean your workspaces. We've got management joining us, the commissioner of the SEC, Greg Sankey, in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. I have not spoken to this man since I think it was the Super Bowl in Minnesota, Chris.
Really?
Yeah, we were. Was that? Which is the one that I was sitting behind Urban Meyer that the commissioner? Were you were not there?
Oh,
at
no, that was
one, right?
Atlanta.
That was Atlanta.
That was Atlanta, yeah.
I think that's what it was.
We were sitting,
turned to my
we were
right.
sitting next to Joe Mauer.
I turned to my right, and I believe this man pointed at the field because guess how many SEC players on the field? He knew off the top of his head.
All of them?
He is the 8th commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, which he became in, about 5 years ago now. He is none other than Greg Sankey. How are you, sir?
I'm well. It was Atlanta,
Okay.
and you obviously made a better impression upon me than I did on you because I knew it right off the top of my head.
He did. Well, I think just as a Big Tenor, I responded. I pointed at number 12 in the New England uniform and asked what conference he went to. It was a fun moment between you and I. Then I'm glad that you got past to call into my show.
Yeah, we'll go with that one.
I
Can't argue.
I guess so. Just in preparation for our conversation, it's interesting. You're from a town called Auburn in New York, right?
Yeah, it is one of those interesting realities. And in the state of Alabama, where our office is located,
Yeah.
I will tell people that I was born in Auburn, and half the room views me with suspicion. And my son was Auburn, New York, and the entire room views me with suspicion.
That's amazing how things work out. Okay, so there's lots going on your plate right now, obviously, Commissioner. So let's start with the first and foremost about a playing season for the Southeastern Conference in football. What would you say about the possibility of this season being pushed or going off on time? Where do things stand right now?
I focused on the preparation because the realities around this virus and our economy and our culture will guide us in that decision-making process. And I've really viewed this as a bit of a marathon where I don't know exactly where the finish line has been placed, but I have to go mile by mile. So a couple weeks ago, we started voluntary activities back in our athletic facilities. Those have gone well. We now have reports last week of quarantines. We had positive tests as soon as young people came back from the 3+ months away, and we've had plans established for how we manage those realities. Then we're going to look forward to hopefully continuing. We want to treat people well, provide them the right kind of health care, so that we get into mid-July, have a little bit more activity, not practice yet, but a little bit more preparation that will lead us into early April, when the preseason practice time would typically begin. And the what ifs, there's still plenty of what ifs, but I think the appropriate approach is to say, okay, let's focus on the preparation, and then we're going to have to adjust and be prepared to adjust as circumstances dictate.
What's the date certain by which you tell your league we're going for sure?
Well, I think that's probably a late July time period. My thinking has shifted a bit. So we started June 8th. After a 2-week kind of oversight diagnostic medical exam period with these voluntary activities. We'll have 3 or 4 weeks. On the 13th of July is when a little bit more practice can begin. I think we deserve the chance to see how that progresses. And then you get, I would say before we get into full-blown practice, you're going to be in that decision-making process as it relates to what happens on Labor Day weekend, which is the scheduled start of the season.
Now, I guess what do you do, Commissioner, when obviously the SEC says we're going, and maybe your protocols are handled in a way that you're comfortable going and the schools are comfortable going, but other leagues that are on the schedule of SEC teams aren't? I mean, what happens then?
Well, that's one of the complexities that's in front of college football that's different than the professional conversation. And Rich, the best example I can give is to go back to March. We all made independent decisions to stop our basketball tournaments, but came to the same conclusions. And the result of what's happened is, among the autonomy conferences, those of us in the 5, ACC, Big 12, Big 10, Pac-12, myself, we talk every day. We have medical committees. They talk every week. That will be a big part of guiding us forward. And I think the what if is one that's on everyone's mind. That communication, the communication with our colleagues at the other bowl subdivision leagues is an element of that. What are the testing protocols that would serve as a basis for that common competition? That is a part of what happens. The state and local leaders' decisions on the ability to host competitions, that's all a part of the decision. So it's a complex issue that occupies, a full amount of time every day right now.
So the so-called Power 5 commissioners, you meet video conference every day?
Yeah, we're old school, so it's a conference call.
My gosh, you don't see each other?
No, we see each other enough, trust me. The morning calls.
Okay.
You can move around and walk when you're on a conference call. You're on a video conference, you're kind of stuck. So I think we've all got enough video conferences in our lives.
So what did Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner here on the Rich Eisen show, walk me through what that is? I mean, what do you guys talk about? I mean, the virus front and center, obviously, and then what do you do? I mean, how do you put what you do into action?
No, it's not necessarily COVID related. We've got just a complete disruption of what we do. I think that's like the Captain Obvious moment if we need a sponsorship opportunity. So we've disrupted everything we do, and we start with what happened once we stopped practices and stopped on-campus activities in March. How do we engage remotely? We changed those rules. We're talking about what do we do in recruiting. I think all of us came to a conclusion pretty quickly that the less recruiting during this summertime period, the better. The idea that coaches are traveling around and then we're flying people into campuses just right now, not the exact right approach. We may be able to do it, but let's slow it down to keep people healthy. And then, of course, we talk about what's going to happen in football, what's happening on our campuses, what's the status of our campuses, what's happening in our states relative to the messages from public health officials about gathering teams for practice first, and then being able to gather people to attend games possibly in the fall.
So let me ask you some, I guess, of the bigger questions then. First and foremost, the conversation certainly in the media involving college football and what it would mean to athletic programs throughout the country that college football has to be played, that there is no question that it will be delayed if it can't start on time, that it's going to happen even if it has to happen in 2021. What do you say to that?
Well, my focus has been communicated on playing football as scheduled, but the real answer to that question is the circumstances around the virus are going to guide us. And kind of the background of the observations made is the financial issue.
Yes.
So unspoken in your question, but in the articles that inform the question as well, there's total collapse. We stopped our spring, which has an economic reality, but we made the decision around the health of the participants. We're going to have to learn to live with COVID, if you will. That doesn't mean we're going to make rash or inappropriate decisions. We're going to involve our medical leaders, those who work in infectious disease, to help guide us. And that is what will inform the decision. The reality, and we're seeing in our economy every day, that when you disrupt the activity on which an enterprise is based, that has implications. And all of us have a responsibility to think through those hypotheticals. But at the end of the day, we want to play football. I believe our participants want to play football. Our soccer players want to participate in soccer. Our basketball players want those opportunities. But we're going to take the appropriate approach. We're going to exercise the right level of care, just as we're doing now. We want our players to be safe on and off the field, and then we want them to take personal responsibility to be safe in their own lives. That will help us participate in football, and to the extent we have to adapt and adopt plans, I think all of us are prepared to do so, but with the focus on health, the ability to play safely, and support the right kind of competition.
And other colleagues of yours at the commissioner level have said if a school does not have on-campus learning, that if students are not invited back on campus because of COVID-related activities, there will be no games. Is that your philosophy as well, Greg Sankey?
I've never said that. What I've said is our universities have to return to operation. That's a threshold, and that's happening across our conference and in many ways across the country. There will be some variance, as we know. This fall semester may not look like last fall semester. That's reality. And how that manifests itself is still part of that planning process, I think, taking place on every campus. And in fact, the learning about public health issues that are emerging during the summertime, I think, help inform that the level of decision making that will be needed. So when you look at our universities, we have some that will have in-person classes during the summertime, not the same offerings they had in the second session, for example, last summer, but still have on-campus classes. That'll be both the learning experience for everyone, but is part of how I explain we've got to be back in some kind of operating mode.
And then your statement, Commissioner Sankey, that came out on the 18th of June in regards to the state flag of the state of Mississippi, and you calling for change to be made to the flag of the state of Mississippi, saying our students deserve an opportunity to learn and compete in environments that are inclusive and welcoming to all. In the event that there's no change, consideration of precluding SEC championship events from being conducted in the state of Mississippi until the flag is changed. What led you to this decision?
I made a similar statement in 2015. So last Wednesday, tragically, was the sad anniversary, you'll recall, of a shooting in a church in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes.
Cost 9 lives. And I was immediately asked about my position on state displays of the Confederate battle flag at that point. And so I had to work through what had we said. And I made a much more clear statement in 2015. Remember, in South Carolina, they had a Confederate battle flag display on their state capitol grounds. Governor Haley, working with campus leaders, community leaders, political leaders, affected that change. It's a positive step forward. So now we have this situation. And we had contemplated saying something. I had reviewed, even with our student-athlete leaders, who had asked me, what are you doing on these social justice issues, these racial equality issues? And it's past time for change is really the first phrase of that statement, because I think it is past time for change. We need to look forward, both within our region, and across our country. We're going to have to heal a bit. Is clear based upon the front page headlines we've seen over the last 5 or 6 weeks, highlighting issues that have always existed in our country in different ways. And we felt as a conference it was appropriate for me to make that clear statement that we think it's past time for this change to happen.
So when you say consideration of precluding, what does that mean?
Well, we've said before that the presence of the flag in the way described is one of the factors we consider. But we're about to go into a cycle for a couple championships, permanent championships, women's basketball being the most timely, where we pretty broadly invite people to submit proposals, and so we wouldn't do that. But also, we have not disrupted the hosting of on-campus championships that just rotate through our league, and COVID has slowed that down, but those, if there's not change, we'll put in front of our membership to withhold that hosting opportunity within the state and award those to other locales.
So it's not removing a championship for accomplishments on the field or on the court. It would just be for the right to host such a thing? Would you?
The right to host. So it's a little bit different than the NCAA statement. The NCAA relates to generally top 16 teams in baseball and softball earning that right, using the phrase you identified. For us, it's been a rotation, but what's contemplated is a disruption in that rotation. And our hope is the positive conversations that resulted in change, for example, in South Carolina 5 years ago, can move forward in the state of Mississippi and see that state flag change.
Did you hear from anybody in the state of Mississippi after your statement?
We worked with our universities beforehand just to let them know what was on our mind. You can imagine I've heard from plenty of people.
Anybody in the state government of Mississippi call you up, Greg Sankey?
Yeah, not at this point. Not at this point. That's there are plenty of voices that have identified the opportunity for change. I'm sure there are plenty of needs for communication, and I respect the political process and the governmental process that needs to take place, but have identified, I think, clearly the need for change.
So I guess my last one for you is a question I'm sure you're asked by everybody, so let me just chime in. I was kind of cutting around the edges. Do you think you got a football season? Because, I mean, there's no...
I do at this point.
You do? Okay.
I think we've laid a foundation to make it possible, and that's the responsibility right now. The reality is, we're learning something every day, and I've learned that there are people whose day jobs are as biostatisticians. I did not know the title existed before all of this, who help clarify things. I don't watch a lot of the media. I don't consume as much media as I do in opinions and perspectives and models, but I try to ask those who are in the scientific world around our campuses, those in the medical world, how do we look at the future ahead? And Rich, the reality is we can prepare. We want to make sure that we're ready, and we're going to learn if the circumstances around this virus will allow us to do so, and that relates to following public health guidance, our players, our coaches, our staffs taking personal responsibility, candidly, our fans taking responsibility to follow the health guidance that's been provided.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, because I imagine if you have fans in the stands, you're going to require masks to be worn, right?
We haven't made that decision, and you learn a little bit about the inside versus outside spread. And again, I'm not an immunologist or infectious disease specialist, so everybody's going to critique this. But we're in the learning process, and we've seen mass gatherings around the protests that have happened, and so those are learning experiences, as I understand, for people in the scientific and medical world. I'm not going to tell you that's the basis for us moving forward, but all of this learning, because research is usually done over years and decades, and we're talking weeks and months, which is why the feedback and the guidance changes. And that's part of the learning that needs to take place for us as well as our entire society.
And just in terms of knowing, have you targeted a number of tests that will be required for the SEC to play football? Is there a number?
No, we've not. In fact, one of the misnomers is our campuses actually are involved in testing. We didn't mandate testing,
right?
And this informs the answer because the availability and the nature of testing and the effectiveness of testing and accuracy of testing and timing of testing are all kind of this jumble of how do we move forward. That's one of those ongoing points of dialogue for our conference with our medical advisors and for all five, and I'd argue every one of the college conferences to talk about as it relates to how do we prepare for football. So we haven't talked about, we've talked generally about volume of testing, so that's the number, what's the right timing, what kind of tests may be available, and all of that is something that I think everybody's coming to grips with.
Okay. And I am just to put a button on it. So about a month from now, we should check in and see what's going on in terms of a go, no-go for an on-time 2020 college football season in the SEC.
Emphasis on about. How about emphasis on about? Because time is one of those issues that, as we know, keeps slipping away into the future. But at the same time, we're going to have to deal with present issues. So I've avoided putting a hard date. Mid-late July seems like a reality for us.
Thanks for the call, Commissioner. Really appreciate the time, and look for my call again. I'm intrigued to hear what your thoughts are on everything. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Appreciate the visit. Take care. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too. That's Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner. I turned to my sound man and music expert. Did he just slip a Steve Miller Band reference in at the end there? The time keeps on slipping.
Into the future.
Into the future. Did he?
Great song.
Did he just drop
a
Steve Miller Band reference in? Because when he said time keeps on slipping, and then I'm just. I don't mean to put that song in anybody's mind for the rest of the day, but I think I just did.
Already.
Now I'm done.
I think he did. He did say those words, right?
Yes.
So I mean, again, and I mean, we're just it's one big shrug emoji. But he did say it would be a total collapse if there's no football. I did hear those words.
Yes.
Total collapse.
Yep. Which is what we've been hearing for months.
So it's going to happen. But nobody's going to sit here and say, yeah, we've got a plan. I got a plan. Hold on. Let me take it out right now. I'll read it to you at the top of the page. It says college football season starting in January 2021 when we hopefully have a vaccine. That's what it's called. Let me talk about it right now. No one's going to do that. Certainly when there's still time, and as we just heard, it keeps on slipping into the future. Was his phone number 8675309? Did we get that too? Because that's from the same...
No, that's Jenny's.
Sorry. Thank you very much. I did hear that, though. I did hear that, right? 844-204-RICH. We'll take your numbers. We'll take your call. Oh, gosh, stop it. Stop it. We're back with more in a moment.
Yeah, you can't sing a song.
Are we going to get flagged now?
Yes, you can get flagged on YouTube.
We're only singing like 4 words at a time.
They pick that up.
Yeah, man.
Well, you guys didn't sound like you were really
that just means how great we are at harmony,
It sounded like
TJ.
2 cats having
It did sound bad.
a little fun over there.
Oh.
Hey, if the SEC's playing, everyone else is playing. That's why
that's a fact.
I mean,
that is a fact.
They got a little time.
Or guess what? The SEC will just play their own season.
CBS will be fine with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
They still have that contract?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
With Brad Nessler.
Nessler sitting at home with his 3 fingers deep into a tumbler, calling a fourth quarter action. I'll be
signing
up for that.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
War Eagle. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
First and 10. Second and 8.
It's going to be interesting to see where they put the announcers.
Let's do a poll question. Announcers you'd like to hear call games from home. Three fingers into a tumbler.
Oh baby. Okay.
Musburger.
All right.
Nessler. No, just stop it.
No, don't do that. He's typing. He's already typing.
I can't have that up in 7 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Yeah, it's just like would you like Gus?
I mean, do you think Howard Cosell back in the day had a little? Come on,
no question.
100%.
Well, no.
In my mind,
No question.
No question.
Give me a shot.
his home run call of Chris Chambliss, that's gone.
I mean,
And then he takes over as Chambliss is running around the bases, and poor Keith Jackson's probably looking at him like, hey, I'm the play-by-play guy.
like Harry Carey never partook.
Just listen to his. Go ahead and YouTube his call of Chris Chambliss sending the Kansas City Royals home and the Yankees into the World Series for the first time since 1960, whatever. The whole, Son of Sam era, New York City's running on the field like going crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Chambliss is knocking people over to try and get around the bases.
Yep.
And then the Yankees went into the World Series to take on the Big Red Machine, whose one of the members, joined the Yankees years later. And Steinbrenner didn't let his son stay in the dugout, even though Greg Nettles' kid was taking grounders at third base, and Ken Griffey Jr.'s hatred of the Yankees was born. See, I just brought it all together.
By the way, it took an hour and 44 minutes to get to that.
Rich, did you partake before you sank the 7th inning stretch? Did you guys?
Oh, definitely.
You have to, right? Yeah, I mean, that's what.
Well, I mean, I wasn't working. I was off.
No, you were off
air. And when in Harry Carey's oeuvre, do as Harry would. Just do it blotto. Eight 844-204-RICH, number to dial here on the Rich Eisen Show. How was your first Father's Day?
It was it was awesome. It was great. We got out of town.
Cage is now
he is going to
5
be
months old?
He's going to be 4 months on Thursday.
Okay.
Coming up.
Okay.
It was awesome. We rented this little spot in Palm Springs. Had a little pool in the backyard. He was like, we got one of those floaty devices for his. It like goes around his head, and he just floats and flails around in the pool. He loves it. He is so obsessed with the pool, and we just kind of got out of Dodge and relaxed.
Yeah.
The three of us. It was great. FaceTime my dad and mom over the weekend.
That's great.
It was awesome.
That's great. I'm glad you're able to do that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That's good.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, I just watched Looney Tunes with my kids, made him some pizzas. And
those pizzas looked good, Rich.
They were, I made him some pizzas last night because I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, the homemade pizzas.
Homemade pizza.
I send my sincere apologies to you and all the other dads out there in the world. But this is my gift. Hold on, this is my gift from my kids. There you go.
Oh, look at that thing.
That's it.
So,
Rich,
competition's over.
I love it.
Yeah.
With all due respect to your father,
Of course.
and you having your first Father's Day.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to rain on your parade. I'm sure you're feeling great.
I was
This
feeling
beautiful little boy.
I was pretty
You're
high.
like, hey, I'm being a great dad. I'm enjoying Father's Day for the first time. But I have this placeholder in front of me calling me best dad ever. So
You're the one.
The competition's over. The polls are closed. It says ever. It says ever. So, I'm just putting that all out there.
Ever.
I know this is kind of maybe an awkward moment
Yeah, I was really
between
feeling
us.
good about it.
I know, and I asked you first how your first Father's Day was, just to set up the fact that I'm the best dad ever, as is indicated here on this item that had the price tag left on it. So this was a very special moment for me. There it is. My kids don't understand the concept of.
Oh, you got to hold it up. I'm getting told the ticker's covering up the name.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry. There you go. Best dad ever. Sorry, NBCSN. The ticker was covering it up. Best dad ever. So that's now a reveal, a 21st century television issue that the ticker was covering. There you go. Best dad ever. Here, I'm now posing for photographs on live television.
TJ's got it.
Yeah, there you go. Here, let me see if I can raise it up. Let me.
Oh, there you go.
There you go, Rich.
Oh,
Take this
now we're
box.
talking.
Here you go, Rich.
Is that a ticker friendly placement of the best dad ever
We'll see.
placard? So there's that.
Well done.
With all due respect.
Where does that rank? Because this is your 11th Father's Day. So where does this rank on the gifts?
Oh, it's way up there. I actually Susie had them also, and this is what I Instagrammed out. It said Best Dad 2020. So I've won the annual and also lifetime achievement together in 1 year. She had them write down a note to me in a book. They all wrote notes to me about what I mean to them as a dad.
That's great.
I got very emotional reading that. Susie wrote me a very nice note too in there. And the idea is that they will also write notes to me in future years I'm just waiting for it to be used for one time saying, where's my iPad, and stuff like that.
As we know, note writing, big in your house.
It is big in my household. Note writing is big in my household. Do you still have one of the notes there in front of you there? Still have where it is?
This is the I want my mommy right now.
There's the famed note that my daughter wrote. There you go. My daughter, hold it up to make sure the ticker's not covering that. She asked me on the other side, if you flip it around, she asked me.
This has your address on.
Okay, yeah. She asked me how to spell. Okay, very good. Thank you. She asked me how to spell all that stuff out. And the reason why she did that is my wife was out, and I was watching a Sunday night football game, as a matter of fact, on NBC.
You were solo?
I think it was Sunday night. I was solo, and, she was watching it for all of 10 seconds, then wanted to turn on Paw Patrol. And I said, no, Daddy's watching Patrick Mahomes. And that's when she asked for her mother in note form.
But it asked you how to spell everything.
But as you can see,
while you were writing
as you can see, I overcame that moment.
That's true.
I've overcome it. Best dad ever. With all due respect
Did
to everyone
that
else.
Need a 2/3 vote for best dad ever?
Yeah.
What was?
I'm assuming it's unanimous.
The voting situation.
I'm assuming it's unanimous. And I will leave this up here for the rest of this segment. All due respect to Kevin Bacon, calling in about 10 minutes' time. He has no idea that he's second place.
Poor guy.
What's our poll question results as they currently stand here? At
Looking at quarterbacks for the 2020 season. Talking about Dak Prescott earlier. Who would you rather have, guys? Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz. So the Skull Nation has chimed in a little bit. So Kyler Murray's at 38%.
Okay.
Carson Wentz, 29%.
Okay.
22% for Dak. 11% for Kirk Cousins. He was single digits earlier.
You know what Kirk Cousins is doing right now? If you listen, he is laughing all the way to the bank. Even though I'm sure he uses digital checking.
You like that?
Direct deposit, obviously.
Right, I'm sure the Wilf dollars are directly deposited into his Franklin Mint, wherever he is.
So Kirk Cousins
paid like. Hold on a minute. Let me guess.
Kirk
Do you have his Do you have his lifetime? His lifetime achievement.
I have lifetime career earnings.
I am
here.
going to guess. Now it's again always Price is Right rules here on the Rich Eisen
He has
Show.
played 8 seasons.
Closest without going over.
I'll go get
Now the
some
last 3 he's gotten seriously paid.
Okay, no, so it's lifetime dollars.
And do you want upcoming
No. Currently
Just
made.
currently
Do you have the
made.
number currently made?
I have currently made.
You can't
Okay.
include the future earnings that are all guaranteed.
I am not including
including
future
yeah.
earnings.
So
So career so far.
I'm going. You go first.
8
Mike.
seasons
Closest
in the National
without going
Football
over.
League.
You go first. Mike.
Remember,
Go
he
too
played
far.
the first 4 years on a rookie deal.
Correct. I think a third round draft choice rookie deal too. Or was he fourth?
87 million.
87 million.
Ooh, okay.
87 million.
Okay.
I'm
Mike is
Dude,
not gone over.
No, Mike has gone way
think
under
it's-
because
I think
I
it's
feel like
under.
this is bad because
Yeah.
this is bad to do this because I know exactly how much his contract was previously.
I think 110,
I'm
right?
so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go 87 million and one. I've seen the prices right. 87 million and one.
Rich wins through 8 seasons. Kirk
So let me guess
Cousins,
now. I'm going to say $109 million.
Close. 100 and 600,000. So 100
went
million,
over.
600,000. However, in the next 3 years, Kirk is scheduled to make $96 million in the next
Get me
3
his age.
seasons.
He's paid like Garrett Cole. He's
So
paid like an actual
He's-
major league pitcher,
He's going
not
to
an
make
NFL
$40
pitcher.
million in 2020, $21 million in 2021, and $35 million in 2022.
No wonder why he says this. You like that?
No, very
Because
good.
I love it.
Look at him setting himself up with his own production value.
I mean,
Great job, Mike.
That's why he got an Emmy for sweetening the sound on
Sammy
Sosa
Sosa.
highlights in 1998. In case you're just joining us, we had Roger Bennett.
Oh, here we go. That's the poll question.
We had Roger Bennett of Men in Blazers fame
What was more
on in the
Fugazi
first
in 1998?
on as the first guest in this hour, talking about how you can choose across the pond, as I'm mandated
The
to say
home
as an
runs?
American sports broadcaster. That he said
Del
that you can
Tufo's
choose,
funny.
you can choose between watching the Premier League games with with the sound that you're hearing from the stadium, no crowd noise, nothing pumped in artificially, or as he said, the EA Sports sound effects that you would hear when you're playing, including the home team's chanting.
They have that all recorded.
Recorded.
Yep.
You could choose that. And he said whoever's doing that, the bloke who's doing it is just a touch behind. I turned to you and said, you should do that. That's your area of expertise. And you then said, based on, let's not go too deep into the woods here, but based on some sort of rights holding issues, you were using a feed for Big Fox at the behest of the great David Hill to show the Sosa highlights. You could get the video of Sosa hitting home runs or the live at-bats as you were seeing him chase history.
Exactly.
You were, however, sweetening the crowd noise yourself.
Faking it now.
And you won an Emmy for it.
We all did. And the audio crew.
And just to bring everyone full circle, because this was during our NBCSN commercial time, where is that Emmy right now?
Oh, it's broken.
Why is it broken?
Smashed by my ex-wife.
Your ex-wife threw it at you in a fit of pique.
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple Emmys were actually thrown.
Okay, but the one that
this is a smashed one.
So,
first one,
which is fitting because you earned it for pumping in fake crowd noise for a now tainted home run history chase. Everything was juiced in that season. The ball, the players, and your sweetening of a sound, and
McGuire's were real.
Your Emmy that was thrown at you and broken by your ex-wife, even that has its own asterisk to it.
McGuire's were real. Only one guy.
At Rich Eisen Show on Twitter right now, what was more fugazi in the 98 baseball season? The home runs, Del Tufo's Emmy. Vote right now. There's only one correct answer.
I'm even going to go Del Tufo's Emmy. I'm voting for Del Tufo's Emmy.
The things you learn about your friends. But one thing that you guys learned already, bring it all full circle, the competition is over.
Rich is.
I'm sorry, Chris. I know you've been waiting all these years to be a dad for the first time.
He might get it next year. You got it right now.
Excuse me. There's only...
that says ever.
From what not only is it ever, but from what I understand... This is a one of a kind. There's no other like it. Despite the price tag on the back of it indicating otherwise. Kevin Bacon coming up in our final hour right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Don't you dare move. 844-204-RICH. We'll take your phone calls as well. How many planks do you have to break to be a black belt? How many do you have to? Is that an actual metric here?
I don't think there's a number, but I think it's when the pressure's on, when the tournaments happen, when the tests happen. Why? I'll break one right now if you need one.
Do we have one anywhere? Can we get a plank for this?
The hot take plank, but don't break
that. The hot take plank.
Hot take plank.
I mean, why not?
It's a 2x4 that's right there.
What kind of wood is it?
Now you got me. I have no idea.
Let me see it.
Hold on.
Standard plywood, I'm guessing.
Get ready to cancel my show at Morongo tomorrow. I have a broken hand.
The sweatshirt, we haven't taken it off in years.
This would be amazing.
Here, feel
if
that.
You could break this.
Is that a proper...
I could break this. I haven't done this since I was 12.
Okay, do you want to give it a try if you think you can do it?
But this is what I learned at the House of Empty Hands in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, very good. There you go.
Did it break? Hold on.
If I hold it down, would that be better?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Chris, you hold it on the other side.
Hold it on the side, Chris. All right, it's going. Pull it out a little bit more. So the end is on the box.
You don't even have any music from Karate Kid?
If he gets it, Gloria Love. I'll play Gloria Love.
Here we go.
Forget it. Damn it. I really thought I could do it, Rich. I really thought I could do it.
It's okay, Jeff. We still love you.
It's all right.
We wake up every day saying, how can we make this show better than the day before? Because we're lead pipe wielding professionals.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
That's the name of it.
What? Hello?
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
Hey, Carmen, you there?
Oh, Rich, love you.
I love you too, Carmen.
No, don't worry, you. Love you. Brock, Del Tufo, what's up?
Carmen,
Hey, Carmen.
talk to us.
TJ, my brother from another mother, love you.
Earlier on the show, from NBC Sports Men in Blazers, Roger Bennett, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Coming up, actor Kevin Bacon. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
All right, the NBCSN friends of ours, we say hello to them. As you could see, I'm the best dad ever, and we had a great best dad weekend. Hope everybody had a great Father's Day weekend right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Pleased that you can join us. Kevin Bacon will be calling in a matter of moments. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial here on this show. Chris Brockman, despite him having his first Father's Day and it being beautiful with your soon-to-be 4-month-old beautiful boy who has his own Instagram account and deserves it because he's a very handsome young fellow.
I don't know who manages that
Tufo.
account. It's weird.
I know. Well, whoever does is a very, very good job. You pump in crowd noise, I think, to enhance the experience. That's great. So and it's good to see you, Mike Del Tufo.
Good to see you, Rich.
So I guess I should keep my best dad ever classification that I got over the weekend. It's great. So hopefully everybody had a great weekend wherever you are. So Major League Baseball right now is still talking it out, and I gotta be honest with you here. I'm a guy who grew up in a union household, and my parents were New York City public school educators, part of a union. I saw what a union could do, and I always fought for whatever my parents needed, and they always got what they were needed. And I'm always interested in what players are trying to get, because I'm always saying, look, honest days work for an honest day's pay, and vice versa. And always saying, hey, got to make sure that if owners or management is asking for money from your pocket, that you have the ability to make it back, or the same risk assessment should be made, certainly if you're putting something on the line like your health. So I'm saying that. But the players have gotten their honest day's pay for an honest day's work. They've gotten their pro rata from Major League Baseball. The question is how many games? It's difference between 60 and 70 right now, which is a lot of money. I understand that. And I'd love for the owners to just pony up and let's go play baseball. But I guess a 60-day schedule would have to be played in 66 days. We're running out of time, and players would basically say management's fault that they're running out of time right now. But I'm getting really sick and tired now, and baseball should understand with their players that about overplaying their hand. I'm getting real sick and tired right now of players trying to nail down, right down to the letter of the law, something that they should be playing to. And I don't know the full extent of what they're holding on for here. I don't. I know there's a grievance, and their ability to grieve and their ability to not, get sued, or their ability to sue is very important. And I understand, again, long story short, that they need to button everything up because they don't trust the other side. But I'm getting sick and tired of this thing not being done. I'm getting sick and tired. And players need to know that if there is no season because there is an argument over money and dollars and cents, that's not going to be acceptable, and it's going to be a pox on everybody's house. They could sit here and say, and it worked very well with tell us when and where. We want to get paid for every single day that we're out there. And we said 70 games. They said 60. Nobody's going to care. No one's going to give a crap. Get it done. Get it done. We're all, wanting to see something. We're all wanting to see what's possible in terms of real sports and seeing something out there for us to enjoy and chew on. We understand there's real world stuff we want to forget. It's time. And baseball is going to blow it. The NBA is going to go. The NBA is going. The NHL at some point is going to put a date and a time to something. By the way, when is that? It's almost been about a month since they came out and said, here's our plan.
Yeah, we don't have a return date for NHL
and
yet,
hopefully they can do it. Something's supposedly going to get done there. And the NFL is going to give it a whirl, even though it looks more and more difficult each passing day. But it's not going to be acceptable for baseball to say, shrug emoji, we tried. I'm just seeing this again here, that their players are either voting on it or they're not voting on it. You see one after another, every story coming out that they're still arguing over it. So let's take some phone calls here. Nick in Denver, Colorado, you're on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Nick?
Good morning. I enjoy your show a lot.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Rich, I am 77 years old, and I've been a casual, on-again, off-again watcher of NASCAR for years. However, I've always refused to identify as a NASCAR fan because of the negative connotations it always brings. So I think that this thing with the flag is definitely a step in the right direction, as was the steps they made years ago with getting rid of the tobacco advertising and the alcohol advertising. However, of the top 20 or 30 sports that I'm aware of, only 2, NASCAR and rodeo, has a prayer, an invocation before their event. And to me, that's just an inappropriate thing to bring to a sporting event. So that will keep me from fully identifying as a NASCAR fan.
Nick, I appreciate the call. Thank you for saying what you say about the show and hanging on for as long as you did to say it. I'm hoping that there are more and more people who are going to be watching NASCAR because of all this, and I hope that they do expand their brand, which makes what they've done that much more, I think, appropriate and courageous. And everybody's got to rally around Bubba Wallace right now. And I stand with Bubba Wallace, and I stand with Bubba is becoming a hashtag on Twitter right now.
Yes, it is.
As everybody's trying to find out what in the world happened in the garage area, to use the old phrase from back in the day of the racing world of my youth. What in the world happened at Talladega, where they're going to hold a race in about an hour's time? Who in the world got into Bubba Wallace's workspace and dropped a noose there? Who did such a thing? And you know what? I guess I want to know why. Like, what are you doing? You're trying to threaten him? You're trying to threaten NASCAR? I mean, and why would you feel so comfortable doing it?
And the FBI is involved now.
Fantastic. Let's get everyone involved.
Yeah, Marty Smith of ESPN, his timeline has a detailed ongoing of what NASCAR President Steve Phelps has been saying in the last 20 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, we'll hit that later on in this hour. More of your phone calls at 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. But we're pleased to have back here on the Rich Eisen Show a friend of the program. He's been here a couple of times in person, and we wish that could be the case this time, but we understand what's going on in the real world. And what you can do is watch on demand everywhere right now a great psychological thriller that was released on Thursday of last week. It is a movie called You Should Have Left. Kevin Bacon back here on the show. How are you, man?
Good to hear your voice.
Good to hear your voice, too. What's going on in your world?
I'm in Connecticut, northwestern Connecticut with my wife.
Okay.
We've never spent this much time together. We've been married for 31 years, and this is the longest I think we've ever spent together. So it's going well. I mean, considering.
Well, I mean the fact that there's still plans for a 32nd year of marriage, that means things are going well at this point in time.
Exactly.
Just got. Yeah. I mean, we all know. Again, your charity is 6degrees.org. You know, there has been words about trying to be 6 feet of separation. Right? Do you see where I'm going right now, Kevin?
I see you're putting the 6s together.
I'm putting this whole world together. Have you been spending any time in your quarantine just flipping on TV and seeing some of these old sporting events from back in the day, back in your youth? Maybe have you checked anything out? Anything pop on your screen that you're like, oh gosh, I forgot about all that?
Well, I couldn't get enough of The Last Dance. I mean, I was kind of like, it was the type of thing where, Kira wasn't really all that interested in it, and so I was watching it, I was watching it by myself, so it wasn't the thing that we would sit down after dinner and share together. But
Yes.
I didn't want it to end. I got to the point where I was, I think, was it 8 episodes or something? I got to like the second to last episode. I was like, now what am I going to do?
I know, right? And we were all covering it in our world of sports talk and sports media, covering it like it was a real live sporting event and going down memory lane. But I'm wondering if you had the same situation that I had being a Knicks fan, recounting all the near misses and all the shoulda, coulda beens if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, Kevin.
Well, yeah, it was, but it was also sort of like doubly. Like I was texting with a friend and I said, "This is a rough episode." but then it kind of came, and I sort of got over it, and then it kind of came back to and hit me, seeing how great Reggie Miller was, and then I was thinking about Reggie in the Garden, and anyway, but it was something else, and I guess I don't know. I was just great documentary filmmaking is just something special.
Yeah, and for you to go down your memory lane like that, for me it was very difficult just to see how Jordan had a specific animus for the Knicks and a specific beating Ewing as a collegiate, and then just destroying pretty much every opportunity he ever had as a pro. Was just very difficult for me to watch, but it was great just seeing all the anger and all the angst of those days just still being played out. And my favorite stuff was Jordan getting handed the iPad by the director so he could react to some of the stuff that was being said about him. And you didn't want to be that person on the iPad. You just didn't want to be that person.
No, I know. You could just see his eyes start to light up. I have to say, though, speaking of Ewing, I thought, Patrick didn't get a lot of screen time, but I thought he handled it with a lot of grace.
Well, gosh, man, yes, he sure did, and so many different other people did, and I'm glad you caught that. Anything from your work that you flipped on, you saw?
Oh God, I don't look at my own work.
No,
I just
nothing.
I don't.
No, but just you're flipping around, and there's something from your world that just popped on the screen that just even for a second. Nothing?
No, it's not nothing. I haven't been flipping around, and I've actually gotten we've gotten very specific about our screen time. I'm like one of those people that even in this kind of a situation, I have to feel like I'm working. So I'm kind of spending my day, at some kind of work, whatever it happens to be, and so. I haven't been kind of, channel surfing at all. And then we have a discussion over dinner about what it is that we're going to, watch, and then we sit down and do that together after dinner.
Okay. So you're not just sitting down and watching anything from either one of you or your wife's back in the day work at all?
It's a funny thing. You hear actors say this all the time, and I know people just don't really think this is true. And I don't want to say that I don't look at my movies, because in the process of making the movie,
yes.
I look at it a lot. Like, I really like to look at the dailies. I like to look at if I'm in a position where I can see the first editor's cut, I would love to see that, or the director's cut. I like to see the various stages of it. I like to see it with an audience. And then once it's out, I kind of say goodbye to it. So the only times that anything ever really pops up is when I met some kind of if they've cut together some kind of a clip reel, or a tribute type of thing, and then you see a scene and you go, oh yeah, and generally I'm like, oh God, I'm so glad I didn't watch that movie. I mean, I can't. I wish I was a little bit more supportive of my past work. But one thing that's been kind of funny though is one of my jobs that I've given myself is cleaning out, this like massive piles of shit in the basement that I just really don't need anymore. And so along with that are boxes and boxes of VHSs. And I honestly didn't even know if I had a VHS player, but in one of our rooms I found one. And so I started to sit down and go through some old VHS stuff. A lot of it is like funny things like TV appearances, Good Morning Dallas or something. And I'm looking, because people just send it to you, and I'm looking at this stuff and going, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like, for a lot of reasons, either, the hair or the look or the stuff that was coming out of my mouth, so that's been amusing.
Okay.
One really cool thing that I did find, though, which I was really excited about, was when we made Apollo 13, we filmed on a zero-G airplane that NASA has for training astronauts in zero gravity. And it's a pretty cool thing. It's a regular airplane. You fly out over the Gulf of Mexico and you climb and you dive. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about it, but it's a really extreme way to get zero gravity, because as you go over the top of this, what they call a parabola, it's like being on a roller coaster. You float for 25 seconds. And they actually built our sets up there, and we shot a lot of the zero-G stuff actually in zero-G while flying out in this crazy plane they call the Vomit Comet, because it's incredibly nauseating.
Yeah.
And there was a whole bunch of behind-the-scenes footage that I found of myself and Hanks and the late, great Bill Paxton and Ron Howard, floating around as he directs, and us, doing flips and drinking out of the air and stuff like that. It was kind of like what was happening off the set, and that was really fun to see.
No kidding. So, and that's something that was on a VHS tape that you found? That's where it was?
Yeah, it was on a VHS tape. It said Apollo 13 behind the scenes zero-G footage. And in fact, I sent it to Ron, and I don't think he had it. And so I had to transfer and got it over to him.
No, you had to transfer. I mean, you still have your own copy. I mean, you had to transfer.
I have it. Yeah, I have the tape.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Apollo 13, Kevin, is, and again, we'll talk about your current film in a second. Apollo 13 is a remote drop for me. That doesn't matter where I am in it. I drop the remote. I have to watch it all the way to the end. And then I did check it out after watching the SpaceX launch the other day. Seriously, like in a way that when I watch golf, I want to play golf. When I watched that launch, I wanted to watch more, and that I had to watch the movie. Honestly, it's that great a movie. It really is, Kevin. Apollo 13.
It's a good one. I was really thrilled to be part of it, and not the least of which was having that incredible experience. I mean, we did that thing over 600 times, and
no way.
NASA up until that point hadn't really allowed any civilians to be on that plane. That was just something that was only being used for astronaut training.
And again, I don't know if you're on Twitter all that much, Kevin, but one thing that I do see more than anything else of you is people using your "all is well" meme from Animal House to try and calm everyone down with everything that's going on in the world. I see that "all is well" all the time, Kevin.
It is a pretty strange use of that meme, isn't it? I have seen that, yeah.
All is well. So let's talk about You Should Have Left. How many? I guess scary movies have you done? How many have you done?
Oh wow. I've done more than a few scary bad movies, but the first scary movie I did was I just happened to stumble into one that became very, very iconic, which was the very first Friday
the 13th. That's right.
And I was just, young actor, out of work, and needed to pay the rent. So it's not like I was like, I want to be in a horror movie. That was not, I always liked scary movies, but that wasn't the, there was no driving force around me. I wasn't really making the choices of what I wanted to be in or didn't want to be in. So that started a whole chain of events of slasher movies, and specifically of that, Friday the 13th thing. And then I did Tremors, and I did, and the movie You Should Have Left really was the genesis of that was I did a really good scary movie called Stir of Echoes 20 years ago, and the writer and director of Stir of Echoes, David Koepp, and I remained friends, and I was always wanting to do another project with him, and kept kind of like, begging him to write something that I could be in. And it took 20 years, but I just eventually wore him down. And then we went off and made You Should Have Left.
And so you've been there and done that for that sort of thing. So what did you like about You Should Have Left that people should be tuning in, dropping on demand?
It's the kind of scary movie that I like, where it has a basis in character and in emotion. And the first part of the movie is really a movie about a marriage, and most specifically about a second marriage, and about a guy who's married to a woman that's really way too young for him. And he has stuff in his past that he's sort of trying to run away from, but he also has a tremendous amount of paranoia, being married to an actress and being married to a young actress, and being worried that she's not being faithful to him, and they try to kind of escape right before she's going to go back into a job, and just have a weekend with his wife and him and their 6-year-old child, and so they picked this house in Wales. She's going to be working in London, so they look for a house in Wales, and to say that they picked the wrong house would be the understatement.
That's You Should Have Left, which is available on demand everywhere now, and was released last Thursday. City on a Hill is a great show, man. Is that when we get through this whole nightmare, you're back out there doing it? Is that where it stands right now?
I certainly hope so. I'm hopeful, and I haven't heard anything definite yet, but
okay.
We're just starting to see people talk about and explore how production could resume, and that's the thing that I'm supposed to do next.
I hope so. It's a great show, man. You're great in it. You're dynamite in it as well. And I know that's what you've been on the last couple of times promoting.
Thank you.
So, no, you're welcome. Thanks for the time, Kevin. Always appreciate our chats immensely.
Great to talk to you.
Right back at you. That's Kevin Bacon. You got it. That's at Kevin Bacon on Twitter and Instagram. You Should Have Left, available on demand everywhere now. All is well. All is well. So he did that movie, and then he said he was out of work, did Friday the 13th, and then Diner, Footloose, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. How'd that work?
I think it's worked out.
Off you go.
Animal House was his first ever movie.
All right, let's take a break right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Don't go anywhere. The latest on everything else going on in the world when we come back right here on NBCSN. So we'll have to hit on our poll question. We have multiple poll questions today, right, Christopher?
We have a couple out in the ether right now.
Okay.
We got a couple out there. Del Tufo, you're getting dragged.
So oh, no.
I knew it. I voted for the... It was fake. We faked the crowds. It's fugazi.
Actually, early results were dragged. It's actually neck and neck right now.
No. We faked it.
Man.
I even voted that it was fake.
What? The home runs or your Emmy?
The Emmy.
Whoa. So you're going to give it back?
Well, it's in pieces. You want a couple pieces? I have a wing.
I mean, look, Reggie Bush gave back the Heisman. Wings. I'm just saying.
By the way, when is Dak going to sign his tender? He hasn't done that yet,
waiting.
Right?
He's holding.
Yeah, it was. He needs TJ to look it over first.
He wants TJ to.
Doesn't
TJ
look
approved?
like.
You have the stamp, TJ.
Man, I'll tell you what.
Stamp.
The sports world, bro. I mean, needs as many sporting events to come back as possible, because right now there is nothing happening with a live event that's more necessary than right now. Late June, stuff spiking. You're wondering what's going on in the real world.
Yeah.
You just need a break.
We got NASCAR tonight.
I know you got NASCAR. By the way, and it looks like Richard Petty's going to show up to support Bubba Wallace.
He hasn't been seen anywhere in a long time.
How old is Richard Petty?
He is definitely in his 80s. He is 82.
I mean, he's like the Clint Eastwood of racing.
Yeah.
He is the most famous NASCAR driver of all time.
And it looks like he's going to show up at age 82 in the middle of a pandemic. That is serious business. Again, he's driving his 43. He's racing. He's racing Richard Petty Motorsports at RP Motorsports. Petty sent out a statement. This is the stuff that we're all talking about right here. And the flag drops in what, 35 minutes in Talladega. I assume the raceway is ready to go.
It is. NASCAR has increased security today, according to Marty Smith. So,
what in the world? All right. We'll be back with more in a moment. We appreciate everybody's patience on Sirius XM Radio as well. There was an issue with that feed today as well.
The power kind of went.
Yeah, there's a power outage over the weekend, kind of jacked things up.
Are we up to speed
we
now?
are. All systems go.
Okay, very good. We're back in a second right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Don't go anywhere. Podcast1.com/Rich Eisen to listen to all 3 hours of the Rich Eisen Show. Go ahead and take care of your ear gate on that front. We would greatly appreciate all of that. Richard Petty showing up on behalf of Bubba Wallace at Talladega Raceway, where security heightened after a noose was found in the garage of Bubba Wallace yesterday. It's just insane in 2020 after everything that is going on. It is just awful that somebody would think, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And one would think that that person told somebody about it, didn't just do it on their own, bragged about it, thought about it, executed the fiasco that the feds are now involved in. This person is going to be found. The FBI is now involved, correct, Chris Brockman?
Correct.
Let's go find this person. Let's go chase it down. The Civil Rights Division is now involved from the DOJ, U.S. DOJ, on it. And we're still waiting for Dak Prescott to sign his tender. At least we're thrilled in this area of the business that the news came out that he was going to sign his tender, and it totally makes sense for us to talk about. Totally makes sense that he would do such a thing. $31.4 million, as I said at the top of our 3-hour show on NBCSN, as I said at the top, if you have a piece of paper placed in front of you that if you put your signature on it, you get $31.4 million, how fast do you sign it? How quickly do you sign it? You are generationally wealthy with one stroke of a pen, and Dak Prescott had that placed in front of him on March 18th, and June 22nd is the day on which he's expected to place pen to paper and stroke his Dak Prescott on that line. Talk about remarkable restraint.
I was going to ask you at the top today, if you were Dak, would you sign or would you hold out?
I would sign immediately. Would you go the Kirk Cousins route here? Right now, I am young enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me, I do not need the daily affirmation of anybody else.
Yeah.
I all bet on me. That's all I've done. Bet on myself. Go out and get my first job in Redding, California. Go out and send out my tapes. Get hired by ESPN like I got struck by professional lightning. After 6 some odd years things weren't really working out for me in terms of what I thought I needed to do or what I could do at ESPN. I stood my ground in conversations with them. Wound up needing to bet on myself with NFL Network. I'm, knock on wood, right on top of my head. 17 years later, still with that organization, talking about football, which, knock on wood, we'll talk about this fall with actual games. Knock on wood if you're with me. Betting on myself every single step of the way. With this show, starting a podcast, sitting in a small room at the NFL Media Group, growing it into this beautiful studio now for coming up on a 6-year anniversary this fall. Betting on myself. Absolutely. That's all I've done, and I totally think that's what Dak should do and sign that contract. $31 million in your pocket for this year. Go buy whatever you wanted to buy yourself. Go buy your family whatever you wanted to buy yourself. Go do it. And then keep going. And then basically tell Jerry and Stephen Jones, hey, we don't know what's going on in this world. Bank it. With COVID-19 coming. Bank it. We don't know what's going on in this world. Mr. Jones and Stephen Jones, I don't want to be on a team, however, where we're cash strapped because the cap goes down and the deal's not made between you and the players union. That's something for you guys to figure out, but I don't want to be cash strapped on the Cowboys. So let's figure out a deal where I feel good and you feel good. And if things don't work out a certain way 2-3 years down the line, let's revisit it. Let's come up with something reasonable. But again, these things don't have to hammer out until July 15th. And as Mike Florio told us, this is a deadline league, and he is damn spot on there. If it needs to be done by a certain time, it's done by 12:01 that very night at the stroke of midnight.
Ain't that the truth?
Period. End of story. So I'll tell you what, man. Speaking of the Raiders, the Raiders are the latest team to walk into their facility, right? Do you have that photograph, Don Bowie? Look at this man. He's really let himself go in the quarantine. That is Mike Mayock.
61. Looks like he could still play.
Oh, got Mike. You know what? I've seen that look too. Not the mask, but I've seen that look. You know what that look is? I know what that look is.
Why are you taking my picture?
Why are you taking my picture?
That's exactly it.
I understand you've got a job to do.
But what are you doing?
How is me walking into work with a knapsack and a mask on? How is that content? Now the question is that Las Vegas, or is that have they full on moved to Vegas? Is that McCarran? That looks like McCarran Airport in the background.
I'm trying to look
there.
in the background to see.
The mountains.
There are some mountains that kind of could be Las
Vegas.
Vegas.
But they also have mountains past Oakland.
Is that where Serrano took the discs?
I
don't know.
I think that's their new facility.
I mean, content.
They got to be in, right?
2,300 likes right now. I mean, come on.
I mean, has Mayock been benching Gruden? Is that what he's doing?
Whatever he's been doing in the quarantine, baby.
Look at
16-0, man.
They're waiting.
And this is just another reason why we gotta have the NFL this year.
I mean.
And I believe too, and I'll use this as content, by the way. The Raiders in their new stadium. I don't believe we're going to see fans there for a while. And one day, people are going to wind up going to Vegas, back again. Good times rolling where nobody gets COVID or whoever does that gets just pop a therapeutic and they're fine. Let's just put it this way. We need to see the Raiders in that stadium all the time. Could you imagine? Let me just go down this road here. Their first home game is a Monday nighter against New Orleans.
Yeah, buddy.
Then the Buffalo Bills come to their town. And in between all those games, they're open at Carolina, they're at New England, they're at Kansas City. I mean, just those 5 games alone of the Raiders and seeing what happens with Mariota and Derek Carr and that new stadium. Just going down the road before their bye week.
That is a tough schedule.
And then they're home for Tampa. Now then.
I was 100% planning to be there for that game.
Right?
I would have been there the first game.
And then at Cleveland, at the Chargers, home for Denver. I mean, just on and on and on and on with the question of, is it Mariota sitting right behind Carr? And what does that kid Ruggs look like? And what are they going to do in year 3 of Gruden being there, but year 2, hooked to Mayock's machine of picking the right players? And, you know, we could sit here and say, what's their record going to be at the break? But the fact that there's no fans in stadiums, as we assume it's going to be,
I mean, that's a big difference in Buffalo and New Orleans, for sure.
A big difference maker.
Kansas City?
Kansas City without fans?
Right.
But they're all equal.
Which is why I'm saying this. It shouldn't be all equal. That's what
I
the
know
NFL
that.
is about.
I know that. But at least
I'm saying this. They have to come up with a plan where everyone's allowed to pump something in.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, but
that's not crazy.
The only
That's
way you
crazy.
could do that,
That's
only way you could do it is every stadium would have to be set the exact same way. The same people would have to be running it. Because
but Rich's point is that
can't
it's
just-
traditionally loud in places
I
like
know
Kansas
that.
City and Seattle. So even with no fans, it should be loud there.
But if you
Yeah,
come,
but it's-
I disagree with that.
No, let's game it out. Let's game it out. Let's
Go
game
ahead.
it out. Let's
Yep.
game it out. Because everything can be figured out.
Of course.
Which is my message again to Major League Baseball.
We're trying.
Yeah.
Everything can be figured out. What if the NFL knows what it sounds like in Seattle after they score a touchdown, what it sounds like in Seattle after the other team scores a touchdown, what it sounds like in Seattle after a turnover, what it sounds like in Seattle when they're up by 10 or down by 14? What does it sound like? You go through the last 10 years. Hold on a minute. You go through the last 10 years and you figure this stuff out. There's enough time to figure this stuff out. I'm telling you. All right? There's enough time. Hold on a minute.
Oh my
There's
God.
enough time. There's enough time where somebody is assigned a team and they watch the last 5 years. Don't do 10 years. 5 years. Let's make it.
Could do 2 years.
5 years. 5 years. 5
Yeah.
years. 5
So
years.
40 games.
40 home games.
40 home games.
40 home games. Figure out what the level of sound is
On average.
on average,
Yep.
and that's the number by which you can jack up the sound.
But you're just going to
And the
play.
problem is, how do you police it? How does somebody not go over
The
that?
NFL has to do it.
Somebody from Game Ops is doing it.
Yes.
So you're going to
It's
play
not-
crowd cheering, or are you going to play music, or
No.
what?
The crowd as they react. I get exactly what Rich is saying.
I
if
would-
they do an interception,
I would like
you have that pumped in as if they did.
The home, Now I know
get it.
again, isn't Mark Cuban talking about having a fan sitting at home and cheering, and that's what gets pumped in?
So, I mean, let's take this even further. On first down, you're going to calculate the averages on first down. You're going to calculate the averages on second down and the averages on third down.
On
And what
an
if they go for it
interception.
on fourth down? Then you're going to have the averages on fourth down because all things considered, you can't have a touchdown noise reaction when it's a key third and
Roger
8.
Bennett said that EA Sports.
That's it.
Oh, hold on a second. EA Sports is being utilized to enhance the viewing of a game with the normal sounds associated with the home pitch for Premier League. Same partner for the NFL. Why can't they figure that out? If CBS, NBC, Fox, ESPN, Amazon, whoever's got a game, NFL Network, decides to utilize the
They
same
get the
thing,
feed.
the same thing that Premier League is doing,
Yep.
why can't that be pumped into the home stadium?
I mean, you have the ambient crowd going the whole
So you're
time.
just going to let the Madden people do it?
I don't know. It's possible.
I mean, a controller like this could do it,
I
Rich.
understand it's
What I
difficult to
use.
police, and I
Boom.
understand it's not normal.
No, it can be done.
But I'm just, again, week one, how much more different would it be if the sound of the Superdome is mimicked for the Saints' home game against Tampa, or they're just playing in an empty dome with nobody in there with the exception of the NFL operations staff?
It's
not even close. What about the first game in Kansas City for Houston in Kansas City? What about in Buffalo, Baltimore? Okay, we can go on and on and on and on down the list. Minnesota. Why shouldn't, as Green Bay is trying to get ready for like Rodgers trying to win the game, and it's a timeout, why shouldn't they be able to play music so it's difficult for him to communicate with his coach? The skull chant. Why not? New England. They'll play Crazy Train.
I mean,
they're not allowed to do it.
It sounds like a great idea. I'm just wondering how you pull it off.
Look at that. The 49er fans could make a difference. What happens? Hold on a minute. For that Rams-Cowboys game that's supposed to be in the new stadium, what if we did this where fans are allowed to make the noises? What if you sold those rights to a Cowboys fan to try and make money off of it?
Nice. Well,
like you would do for your
by
ticket.
The way, as you were trolling me, I was going to troll you and say they don't even need crowd noise in Buffalo for the Bills to take care of the Jets.
Oh, week 2, New England going out there with Stid, his first career start on the road in Seattle. The 12s are quiet.
It's not hard to do.
Seriously, it's not hard to do.
The
I think it is hard to do.
There's no
it's hard to police.
It's hard to pull off.
No, you'd have to have the league people doing it. You could not have a person from the home, it would have to be a league person.
Problem is that there's no history for the new stadiums in Los Angeles, and there's no history in the new stadium in Vegas.
Yeah.
To try and figure what that stuff is.
How do you know how loud it's supposed to be?
But I'm making the case here, man. So if I say knock on wood, if you're with me, you're not knocking on wood.
I like it, but it's got to be done right.
Are you just?
I'm on the fence.
Look at that.
I'm on the
I can't wait till there are fans in there. I can't wait till again, and we'll see.
It looks awesome.
Well, again, and we will see. We will see how many people do go to that great city where Mo Green is no sign or signpost or plaque in his honor, where people will show up in that place on behalf of the visiting team because they've just spent a weekend in Vegas. Where they normally go. I mean, honestly, Packers Nation, people in Wisconsin, if they've got a game in Vegas in December to get out of 12 degrees in Eau
Number
Claire
one resale
and
ticket
go
right
there,
now
I mean,
is the Raiders.
I'm seriously. I mean, so
100%.
I can't wait to see what that is. I just don't think this is the year for it. But I do think that we should still have home field advantages. I definitely think so. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We're back on the Rich Eisen Show in a moment.
Rich, your idea is great. The speakers are all low.
Technically,
it can be done in a heartbeat.
How.
It's just going to be hard to pull off.
The speakers can all be low. There's no concerts going on. So the equipment's available.
It's not difficult to pull off.
There's no big concert.
It's damn near impossible to police.
You'd have to have an NFL person. And like I was showing you, my box that I use to hit everything, one of these.
What is that box?
This box is basically, Don, this camera's better. This box could have all the sounds in it. They make them like this. They have bigger ones, and I mean, this is one version of it that you could literally sit there and have your first down, your second, your third, all of them, and have them labeled. And that person's hitting. You keep an ambient crowd the whole time, and they're hitting the reactionary shots.
Each team
can totally be done.
Each team has a game ops guy anyway for this. You're going to have him do it, but you're going to have someone from the league standing over their shoulder, making sure they're not.
I think you have someone from the league
doing it. Yeah. You hire a sound guy that's working for the league. Here you go. A guy that's
just another
impartial.
16 people.
They don't have to physically be in the stadium.
They don't even have to be in the stadium. I can do it from my house.
Well, wouldn't you rather want them in the stadium?
No, it's an extra person that you need a social distance from. You don't want people in the stadium.
They're sitting by themselves in a booth.
No, you should not just do anything. But I don't think. But Don Bowie just said just do nothing like the NBA. I don't think the NBA is doing nothing.
They're going to have sound.
I think the NBA. NBA is at home court advantage, no doubt about it. No, but I mean, but the team that has you could still have a home team and a road team that you're assuming is the playoffs. Game 1 would be in somebody's stadium based on the record. They're going to figure that out. By the way, I think they're going to do that.
Yeah.
They haven't said that yet, right?
I have not seen anything about how the end game's going to go.
But I have seen Cuban has talked about that having fans at home be part of an audio experience.
Didn't the Knicks try that once with no music during the game, and it was not that great?
No, the Knicks just. I think it was just a normal Knicks game.
It was a normal Knicks game.
Yeah, just nobody actually cheered because they sucked.
Stoll just didn't want music.
They stunk on ice. I think.
I mean, it could totally
just
be
spitballing here.
I love your idea, Rich. It just have to be done right.
It's gonna be tough.
Podcast One is how you can get our podcast every single day, all 3 hours. The Rich Eisen Show. Please check us out whenever you wish. So we got on that whole jag on pumping in crowd noise into NFL games to make sure there's a home field advantage, based off of just seeing Mike Mayrock, right, showing up to work.
61 years old.
Mike Mayrock.
He's yoked.
How many times he probably won't appreciate you saying that over and over again. Look at Mikey. What are you taking a picture of? Do you think it was, okay, Mike, I want to take a picture of you?
No.
And then, or they just snapped it, and then he just like said, what's that for? Yeah. Right?
He's like, what are you
You're
doing?
going to put it on Twitter. What are you going to say? Back to work.
He immediately called the person over.
Right.
What is this for?
What is this for?
Well, Mr. Mayock, we're just posting something.
Mr. Mayock. Mr. Mayock.
Well, I got to assume that's like
Mr.
a 20-something underling who's doing this, and then,
Now, again, you have a box right there that this could be easily done where an audio person, is that the box, or are you playing Tetris during the middle of during the show?
I have colors for different things.
Okay.
But you could literally, okay, like I said, you could literally have you could put first down rate, second, third, fourth, good, bad, like whatever you want. You could literally have each one of them loud, low. You can have anything you want in here and have them, but you keep the ambient crowd, as a stadium always has ambient sound.
Right.
And then you have the swell crowds when they score an interception. That's that guy's job. Boom. And you're done. And they have all this recorded.
I would love it.
It's all recorded.
love
Every game
it.
NFL Films gets from the stadium, it's a fact, they get a feed of the crowd. So Films has it. And then every network's got them.
And if this is, you would say no to this. You'd say no. You're the commissioner of the NFL, Commissioner Brockman. Welcome. By the way, you magically have more commas. You have more commas than you've ever had before.
I got 8 figures in the bank now.
And so, congratulations. You're now in charge. This is placed in front of you as an idea. What do you say?
I need to see how, like, the who and the how is what I need.
The speakers.
The concept of the idea is a good idea.
The who is somebody from the operations staff. Next.
On the team or the league?
No,
league.
NFL.
So we're hiring 16 new people, or they already exist?
It's just that many people who aren't going to be at the games now, because we've got to tighten the rotation in terms of the number of people that we're going to allow on the field on game day, just for mere safety purposes. People are going to double up. The person who stares at to see whose socks are, the right color, it can double up in the same job as something else.
Well, in the case of this, though, he brought up a good point, Rich. Also, the sound guy's got this guy doing this has to be in like a box or a booth at the stadium.
Why?
To monitor levels. What? That person, I'm even going sound.
But if they're at home, there's a delay.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, and he was right, but that delay's.
All right, so it's an operations staff at the game.
At the game. And you could hire guys. There's a lot of sound guys out of work.
I like them being out the game. I like them being at the game. Who's to say, are we doing it for different downs? Because
I say you have a
you're not as excited on first down as you are on third down.
The general idea, do you like the fact that we are pumping in crowd noise to create the home field advantage that NFL fans have come to expect and potentially place hard-earned American dollars on the line for? That this is something that we also enjoy. We enjoy it.
The Falcons and Colts have been doing this for years.
I understand that has been an issue. I understand that
I think we can figure it out.
I think this is
okay. I'm in.
There you go. That's what it'd be like.
By the way, and I appreciate the Rich Eisen Show studio audience for chiming in. Yeah, man. I'm in. I like that.
They have it. It exists. If the sound had to be made up, it'd be different. They already have it. And I like Rich's idea. They go back You get
And again,
Seattle is crazy. I've only been there one time, and it was for a preseason game, and I sat in the upper deck, couldn't hear the person next to me.
The loudest I have ever heard a stadium, okay, is the Superdome.
I know. You're right.
All right. Seattle is and Kansas City are shockingly loud for outdoor stadiums. Like, you can stand there and go, wow, this is really loud. Denver, in the Elway years that I was there, can get really loud, like rock concert, ears ringing when you're done with the game loud. But nothing compared to me. We talked about it, Jim, with Mike Tirico last week.
It is.
The reopening of the Superdome after Katrina, and Michael Vick at the time, and the Falcons were in the stadium. I've never heard a stadium as loud as it was at kickoff. I never heard a stadium loud as it was when, again, we all know about the block punt by Steve Gleason that has been memorialized by a statue outside of the stadium. The play before, there was a fumble out of bounds. There was a ball loose. Michael Vick had fumbled the ball, scrambling. There was a ball loose, and I've never heard a stadium scream and screech as that ball was out. And then, only to be topped by the block punt and return for touchdown. I mean, come on. Place was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And so, Breeze versus Brady to be played like it's at the combine, like that noise? Because that's
Nobody
what it sounds
wants
like.
to see that.
That's
of
what it
course.
sounds
That's
like.
what it's going to be like.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that it's a different game.
It's a different thing.
It's a different game. It's not a different game. Well, I'm not sitting here thinking, okay, the NASCAR race that's going down at Talladega. I don't hear the fans. I haven't thought once with the PGA Tour over the last couple of weeks, thinking, I don't hear the fans. The NFL is going to be a different story, and I bet you the NBA hasn't said anything yet. Maybe when they do have the games as they play them, the eight regular season games will warm up for the play-in series to warm up for the actual playoffs that they're planning on having in Disney World. Won't the top seeds have a home court? Won't they be the home team? Won't they have, like, potentially the way that they do these playoffs in the best of a 7? Game 1, Game 2 would have been normally in Staples. So, I mean, they're not going to raise the Taylor Swift banner, but they're going to, they won't do that, but they might go ahead and create something. I think they should. I would have no problem with it. It might sound weird for the first couple of times.
People are going to complain, Rich.
People complain about everything
right now.
People who complain about everything
about that already. But they don't realize that it's been done before, like, in a sense that you can add a crowd.
Well, you won an Emmy for it. It's basically just to bring this all full circle.
But people don't. The thing of it is, as long as you use the real crowd and someone from the league is controlling it, an impartial person.
Right.
And it's done. We have your away, and they have home and away for every game that teams have played also.
At what point, and I should ask Brockman this, at what point do the headsets get cut off? When does that happen?
Not till it
First quarter?
Not till it
Second
gets
quarter?
cold in New England. Not till it gets cold.
But that, this is the gamesmanship that people will be saying that this would open the door to.
Sure.
But if the NFL is the one to do it, and then I'm sure the first coach to, in his Zoom, Microsoft team post-game press conference to say, it was a little louder than normal out here today. I mean, that's the way you're going to hear it.
I have no explanation for what happened.
But, I mean, the bottom line is that it's going to be a different experience in the NFL stadiums as if it sounds like a scouting combine. And you've been to a combine. You hear the buzz of the lights.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's nothing. It's just an echo.
It's
like
fun to mix.
somebody's going to you will hear like Odell Beckham try and one hand grab it and then go down on the ground, and you will hear you'll hear the noise of somebody exhaling because their body just hit the ground.
A lot of cursing,
I know.
I'm sure. So it's,
I mean, it's
right.
fun to
You'll hear a
sound
lot of
mix
that
the
too.
combine because it's quiet and it's, but it's not
I mean,
a football game.
I'm going to advocate for that.
Or who's going to complain that their headsets went out, but they heard crowd noise in the headsets?
Oh, I mean.
Like, in New England, they used to say, we got the radio call in my headset.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know. I mean, it's a good idea. Just there's a lot that needs to be ironed
done
out.
right.
Yeah, a lot that needs to be ironed
I'll
out.
spearhead it.
I want to thank today's guests, Mike Florio, Roger Bennett, Greg Sankey of the SEC. Kevin Bacon was on earlier in this hour. Our final poll results over there, Chris Brockman.
All right, quarterback you'd want for the 2020 season, Kyler Murray, 39%. And is more Fugazi in the 98 season. Del Tufo's Emmy wins 52-48.
There we go. More fake than McGuire Sosa Chase. Congratulations, Mike. You deserve an award for that. Thanks for taking in this edition of The Rich Eisen Show.